All right, welcome to No Better Time. I'm Phil Salter. I'm actually here with Jordan Mazziotti, and he is an awesome, I guess, would you call it, was it graphic designer, marketer? You're a lot of
Yeah,
things.
a lot of things, yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, art director, creative director, graphic designer, web
An
designer.
owner, yeah, a lot of things. You're very talented, and I've always been really impressed with that. And you're the owner of Mazziotti Designs, correct?
Yep, yep.
But also you work for companies, you do freelance, and that's something that I've always really impressed me about you, and that's something that I want to talk about. And anything else as well you want to talk about. But I actually was a LinkedIn connection with you for several years now,
Long
and
time
then
ago.
yeah, and I don't know. It's funny how that happens with LinkedIn. You kind of just have people you get connected to because I was in graphic design at one point in the
But I think
past.
at that point we were both working for food storage companies, if I'm not
Y-
mistaken. That's probably why I connected with you.
Yeah, that's right. And then it's funny, we ended up working for the same company at one point, and you were the designer there,
Yep.
which was like, oh, and I was like, dude, you look so familiar. Like, I made the connection because I'd seen your posts of your cool stuff you've done, and then we knew each other for real. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining, by the way. And the
Yeah.
thing I reached out to you for specifically was I wanted to talk about how you kind of manage freelancing, and it's something you do a lot of. At least I know in the past. I don't know if it's
Right.
kind of ebbed and flowed, or if you've put more focus sometimes and other times, and maybe sometimes you've wanted to back off. But kind of, what's your story there? What got you really into design and all that in the first place?
Yeah. So like my initial design, like back in like the 90s in middle school, like I got really into like just studying graffiti. I know that's probably a weird way to start, but like I just was like enthralled by like high end graffiti, just the style, the artistic value of it, like what techniques they use. So like when I was in like seventh, eighth grade, I would just hand draw like graffiti on pieces of paper, like during school when I got home, and just kind of started that with that, and then that kind of evolved from just like copying graffiti styles on paper to like just hand drawing names and then like studying fonts. Like I'd go to the library and go to like the font sites that they had back then, and back then it was like way different than it is now. And I would just scroll through them and just like study them and like be like, that's a cool font. I'm gonna draw my name in that font, or I'm gonna
Mm.
draw my favorite sports team in that font. And I would print pages and pages of just font styles, and then I'd
Hmm.
go and try to recreate them hand, like by hand. That just kind of evolved. Like I drew like realistic stuff here and there, but like my focus was like really just drawing like logos per se. Back then, I didn't know that if that's what I was really doing, but like I
Mm.
just kind of focused on that. And then like kids at school would be like, "Hey, that's awesome! Can you draw my name?" I'll be like, "Yeah, sure, $5." So I started like my little like middle school, high school side hustle of just like drawing people's names in really cool ways and selling it to them, and
So you were an
sometimes
entrepreneur from the beginning there. Like you
right.
saw an opportunity, which I think not everyone always does. I was talking to my brother last night, and he's like, "There's opportunities all around us, infinite opportunities." But I guess if you're the kind of person who notices that and sees what it is and says, "Hey, that's a business opportunity," and you saw that at
Yeah.
what, like in fifth grade, you said, or something
Yeah,
like that.
like seventh, eighth, ninth
Oh,
grade
okay.
is when
Oh,
I
okay.
started. So middle
That's
school.
cool.
And I mean, and it's weird because like years later, I'd run into someone from high school and middle school, be like, "Dude, I was cleaning my room the other day. I was like cleaning my childhood room, and I found that drawing you drew for me, and I still love it. I
That's
didn't throw it
awesome.
away, and I still keep it." So it's kind of cool to be just like, ah, the early beginnings of of design and entrepreneurship. So it's
The original Fiverr, man. You might have feelings about Fiverr.
yeah, it's interesting because I'm almost seeing them changing, and I can talk more about like kind of my upcoming thoughts about like side hustles and stuff. But
Hmm.
I think it's starting the perception with Fiverr is starting to change a little bit. I think,
For the positive or for the negative?
yeah, I think for the positive.
Oh, so do you feel positively about Fiverr?
I did like years ago. I did like a bunch of really small like gigs on Fiverr, and
Hmm.
it was like really $5 gigs and stuff, and I think I made like $500 on just app icons. It was really
Mm.
like one gig, and it was like years ago. And then I just like lost interest and felt like it was a little degrading at that point. But
Yeah,
they've changed
because
so
it
much
takes
where you
time,
can,
right?
yeah. And I think they've changed a lot where it's not just $5 anymore. You can set your prices and you can like set hourly wages and stuff. And it's a lot more, I think it's a lot more advantageous to creatives now than it used to be. And I've seen people like, I've heard of people making tens of thousands of dollars a month on it. Like their
Wow.
full time jobs are on there and they're like just crazy. There's this girl on TikTok and she just pushes it, but she's like the first like millionaire off of Fiverr on
Wow.
writing. It's crazy. So
Yeah, because obviously, like, it's not all just $5 things. It's you can really have like bigger packages, just kind of like a
you
starting
sell
point. But it,
websites, yeah.
yeah, interesting. Not to sidetrack, but I just thought I didn't know how someone like you that does this for freelance and who really values your time, right? And this is a very specialized skill, and to say, hey, anything that I do is worth only $5. Of course not, right?
Right.
You're an artist and you're a professional. So how did it kind of grow from there? Then you're in high school, and then where to go from there?
Um yeah, from there, like I just continued doing it, and then I found out that like there was graphic design you did on the computer, and and then I was just like in high school I took some like classes that kind of really rudimentary back in the day type Photoshop type classes. Didn't really know what I was doing, didn't look that great, but just kind of fed onto it, still drew, still maintained
Mm-hmm.
that thing. And then into college, when I went to my first year of college, that kind of was the first introduction to like design programs. That was like in 1999. I mean, I think the current design industry, you were still in the relative infant days of Adobe and,
Mm-hmm.
Quark and stuff like that back then. So I look back at my first year of college stuff and it was bad.
Well, isn't
But
that how it should be though, right?
yeah,
As we grow our skills, like if we don't look back and say maybe even 6 months ago, but definitely years ago, if we don't look back and say, "Wow, that was pretty bad. I'm much better," then we
right.
should maybe look at ourselves. And say, are we improving enough?
Right,
So,
right. Didn't even do a 4 year program or anything. I did a 2 year program at Eagle Gate College, which is now like strictly a nursing school. So that
mm,
which is weird.
oh, really?
um,
Did you find that
yeah.
beneficial to do a program? I'm assuming it was in like graphic design or something like that.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And was there some kind of accreditation that came with it, or was it like a 2 year
Yeah. I
degree or
mean,
like a
I got my
certificate?
associate's degree from
Ah,
it.
okay.
So it was a 2 year program, but like at the time, it was just like I didn't find a lot of advantage to go into a 4 year program for design.
Mm,
I felt like getting the skills quick and then getting out in the job market was much more valuable than just like languishing for 4 years. Taking it, I mean, I had to take some generals at the trade
mm,
school, but like it was like middle school math and stuff. So I really could focus on like learning the design and stuff rather than just like languishing in generals
mm.
for years. And so
Yeah.
I mean, I got my first. I actually did a year, took a break to move up to Logan with my wife so she could get her master's degree, and I got my first job with like a year certificate and started working. And so I felt
Sounds like
like
that
that
worked
was a
out for
much
you.
quicker head start, and like I could get into the design industry when I was still pretty infant in my learning process, which
And in retrospect, do you feel like, hey, man, that was the right move?
I think so because I was
Yeah.
able to get in design a lot earlier. And then,
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, I 4 year universities have their advantage of like getting some extra growth and stuff. But I feel like in my first 2 years of being an actual designer, I learned a lot more than I could in the 2 years that I was at a university.
Oh yeah, I
So,
definitely don't doubt that. It seems like it accelerates. I found once I was out of college, learning accelerated for me, and the
right,
things I
right.
was really trying to specialize in. So that's cool.
Yeah.
And along the way, were you always doing freelance work, kind of finding things
So,
you could do for people?
yeah, I would say that I probably started doing freelance kind of from the get go, like I would just find opportunities, even if they were like contests or like just like like I think my first like true freelance project was when we were living up in Logan. We lived in the married housing, and they needed a new logo for like the housing. They needed a new logo for apparel for the housing, and they had a bunch of people submit, and I was like, oh, cool, I'll submit this, and I won, and my stuff was on hoodies and stuff, and I was like, wow, that's. And I think that's kind of the what hooked me, and then I would just kind of look for opportunities wherever I could to kind of be like, hey, do you need something? Do you need something? You know, however bad I was at that point, but
Hmm.
I think it definitely helped me improve, like besides just what I was doing at my jobs at that point. So
Yeah. And then did you find that there was times where it was hard to say no to things as they came to you, that even if maybe you thought, oh, that's not something I'm interested in, or that might be too big or too small? Is
yeah,
saying no hard?
right. And like I think when I really started diving in was like after we moved away from Logan, I was back down in Salt Lake. I was hitting I was hitting Craigslist hard. And I wasn't just hitting it locally, I was hitting it nationally. So I would go, and this was like in the heyday of Craigslist when everybody was using it for like everything. I would post an ad like all over the country, and I would get requests all over, and they were so weird. But one I did accept, I did design a flyer for like an escort service one time. I didn't really realize what it was until I was like partway through it. I'm like, they sent me
Oh,
like
that's what this is.
photography and like, great. I'll just finish this off, take my money, and if you message me back later, I think I'll pass. But yeah, it's just like some like it's just like yeah, you take those, you learn what to take, you learn not what to take, and then the
Yeah.
weirder requests you get in, you're like, does this sound cool or is like this against my ethics? Because definitely I've
Yeah.
had to reject freelance projects that were against my ethics like plenty of times. Um,
Yeah.
but I think that's important too to set a code of ethics for yourself when you're doing freelance to make sure that like design stuff you like that you can support, not illegal and
Yeah.
appropriate, inappropriate type of things. So
Something you can
it's
stand
definitely
behind,
interesting.
right?
Right. So, yeah. So
Definitely.
like if someone asks you like, did you design that? You're like, yep, proudly. And so,
Yeah, and that's going to be different for everybody, right? Like we all
right.
have different moral codes, and some people, and that's fine for sure. I would. What I'm wondering about is when you started like deciding what your time was worth, how much to charge people, and I'm sure in the beginning, or was there a time, I guess, where you said, you know what, I'm not charging enough, and it was kind of scary to kind of maybe go to a repeat customer
Highway.
and say, hey, I'm actually raising my prices. Did that ever happen to you?
Yeah, for sure. When I first started, I was a little more on the desperate side, but
Hmm.
I had always done enough research where I was like, I can't do freelance for the same amount that I'm making at my entry level or junior level graphic design job. It's like I can't charge a freelance client, hey, I'll charge you $12.50 or whatever.
Hmm.
Early on in your career, you get paid bones, and so like I always felt like my freelance time was more valuable than my daytime.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I agree.
so like I always tried to at least in the beginning, I always tried to charge double what I was making at my day job. And
Hmm.
at times that still was like 20, $25. And then as that grew, I kind of coincided them a lot of the time. When I got up to $20 an hour, I was charging 40 freelance. And
Hmm.
I mean that over the years, and as you know, as you get more into your career, your base wages and your day jobs, they get higher. So they've kind of almost met in the middle a little bit. I have continued to try to raise it for new clients, especially. And with freelance, you read your customer a lot of the time. So like if you
Hmm.
see a customer that you can't charge 60, 70, $80 an hour for, you'd be like, okay, I'll take a little bit of a hit on this because they're they're a client from the beginning, or they're a small business that's getting their foot off the ground. So you sometimes do a little bit of that adjustment. But
But I like that kind of having some type of formula to go with, and it's a little more clear in the beginning because it's like lower amounts, and then you definitely want to respect your time, but also go with your gut. I think you say sometimes you think because you could be really stubborn and say, you know what, I feel like I could take a little less for this art a project I'm maybe really excited about, and so I could take a little less because they seem like a really cool client that isn't starting out, and kind of go with your gut. Yeah,
Right.
cool.
Because I'm like, even from those early days, I still have clients today that I work with from 10, 12, 13 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I've adjusted those prices, like you mentioned. Like I've had to like slowly creep them up. It's like, hey, times have changed. I need to charge you a little bit more. Most of the time, you do it as slow amount, and then they're usually pretty good with it. But like they're still on board. I still do work every year for them,
Mm-hmm.
and for example, I design. I have a client that I've been with since I want to say like 2009, and we designed officially licensed footballs for the college football championship and the Super Bowl, and now we're doing the Final Four basketball. And but I've been with him the whole time, and um, we've grown together, and like every year I get ready and design my Super Bowl footballs in January, and have to watch the games as research. but uh,
Nice.
but it's something like I never would have known or thought like that many years ago. This one client just would have stayed with me the whole time, and like we're in like a first name friendship relationship, and I've been down to San Diego before. We like met up and had lunch and stuff. So it's really cool.
That's really good, and I think in those kind of relationships, if you don't charge as much, if you chose not to, of course, it can make sense too, right? To maintain those long term relationships, because I think that's one reason why when you're giving your personal time outside of regular business hours, it is more valuable time. It's less time you can spend with your family or to recuperate. It's worth more
Right.
than just whatever you're making in a day. But and also it might just be a one time thing. So it's like, hey, I work for a company, they pay me this, but every consistently this many hours every week. That's why it's a discounted rate, if you will. But if
Right.
it's these long term relationships, it makes sense to kind of decide what makes sense to keep that going.
Right.
That's cool, man. I think that, like I said, for me, you're like an example of someone who just really puts themselves out there and like hustles. And you even mentioned something that you might had some other things you wanted to bring up as far as like
Yeah.
things you're doing.
But yeah, there's some interesting developments over the last couple of years too with for my some long term freelance clients that I've had. So I
Hmm.
worked with you at Go React for I don't know how you were there for a year and a half, 2 years while I was there. An interesting development that happened after is I had been working for a company called Legal Shield for like 3.5 years, just on the side while I was working at Go React.
Mm,
Like my biggest freelance client, it was essentially they probably took up 75% of my freelance at that point, which was
wow.
like great and awesome. I actually got hired by them full time. Um, just like they're like, hey, we're hiring full time. You've been with us for 3.5 years. It's an art director position, and it's and so like that's a huge advantage to freelance as well. Is
Mm,
because I feel like it gives you the opportunity not to necessarily betray your job, or but it gives you the options that like those relationships that you build can
yeah.
can be much bigger than just that freelance relationship. um I mean, and like really at that time, like I got laid off right before the pandemic, and it was like I was like, what am I going to do? And they
Yeah.
came in, and I mean, essentially seamless. I had all branding. I didn't have to go through that awkward like first 6 months where you're like, what the heck is this company about? It was
Mm.
perfect.
It's
And
really
then I
best
had
for both of you guys, huh? Because like you know them, you know what they're about. They know they could what you're about. It's a great opportunity for both of you.
yeah, it was awesome. And then I had a development happen earlier this year where I had this guy that I did freelance for like 10 years, just in companies that he started or worked for. And so this year, he actually he hired me on part time, like as an employee. They were essentially my freelance client, but essentially it's like, hey, we want we want you to be on board. We don't want you full time because we know you still have a full job, but as the freelance client, they're like, we want to put you on payroll. We want you to have the benefits of being an employee, and and but they were my freelance client for 10 years. So two
Wow.
of my largest freelance clients are now accounting for like 65 hours worth of work every week of solid, like, reliable pay.
Yeah,
So
like
I
you
think
have a
that's really
schedule
important.
with them, it sounds like, right? Like you have
Yeah.
this. Yeah, that's amazing.
So it's like, um, I like it made it so like during the pandemic and like with any kind of changes that might happen in like uh, my spouse's jobs or something, I have that security because I built those freelance relationships over a long term, uh, the long term, that it essentially benefited me and gave me the security that I needed
Hmm.
to continue on during like a crazy time in the world.
Wow,
So
that's amazing. I'm so happy to see that you're doing so awesome.
I mentioned to you when we were chatting about this interview,
Hmm.
like some other things in the fire. Like I don't know if you watch a lot of TikTok, but there is like so much side hustle. There's like a whole section of TikTok that is just like side hustle central. I don't know if you've ever.
No,
It's
I'm very
really,
new to
really,
it.
it's really, really interesting because you've got your normal TikTok, your booty shaking and like your
Yeah.
dancing and all
Yeah, yeah.
the jokey and the pranky stuff, all this superficial crap. But when you get down into it, if you can like get into side hustle TikTok, is how they phrase like their subgenres of TikTok. It has completely changed my perception on what you can do as an entrepreneur, especially like me. My new job that I got last year at Legal Shield, it's fully remote. Like they're based in Oklahoma. I'll go to their office. I don't know, maybe never. I don't know. Everything
Wow.
is. I mean, it would be cool, cool to go to Oklahoma or whatever. But I work at home. That's my life there. Like
Hmm.
where we have employees all over the country and we're all remote. Um, so during that time, I've got on this TikTok, this side hustle TikTok that was really changed my perception on what you can do doing other things.
Yeah.
And it's kind of opened my eyes to even non-design side hustles, which is like, and before I'd be like, I'm going to do design hustles. I'm going to design websites on WordPress. I'm going to
Uh-huh.
do print work and, all that stuff, where it's completely changed my perception on what you can do.
I mean, I
So
feel like
like
I need something more, man. Like it's you're saying you if I were to go do hashtag side hustle, I'd see this whole world of people
it's
doing
crazy
things or
because
are you
there's
learning how to
so many things you can do. It's insane because it's just like I've got a side hustle that I mean it branched off of design and I am not making a
Mhm.
ton of money on it right now, but uh Etsy, for example. I designed a poster for my son for his bedroom, a superhero poster. I
Mhm.
put it on Etsy like 18 months ago, and that one non monetary designed poster has made me over $1,800 on Etsy
Wow.
with like no real investment. Like the initial
Yeah.
investment wasn't even to do that. And then growing that, like I've designed a bunch of other stuff and put it on there. And, I made it like 3 or 4 grand off of Etsy, just kind of just playing around
Mhm.
and not even really taking it seriously, going after like the strategy of like keywords and ads and really like pushing like events of the year because you can like really push Etsy to like focus on like the holidays that are happening, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day. I haven't even done that. So that's like my kind of my next step with that side hustle is kind of focus on like the strategy part of it because you
Yeah.
can make these people are making tens of $1,000s a month on just side hustles on Etsy. Things as simple as like digital downloads,
Yeah.
like drop shipping on 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 Etsy and
So they're using TikTok to promote the things on Etsy? Is that where
yeah,
TikTok comes into play?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
for that particular side hustle, and they're teaching you strategies on how to like do it. So because there's like this one guy, he does print on demand jewelry, and he's making like he does a lot of ads, but he's making like $30,000 a profit like a month
Wow.
on Etsy selling jewelry. It's
Yeah.
insane.
I think that it's interesting because this whole idea that I've been really trying to learn more about is passive income. And like
Yeah,
we can
that's like
call
my whole thing right now.
it's exactly it's like you call this a side hustle, but when I hear the word side hustle, I associate it with like working really hard, grinding, going, right? But not necessarily always the case. You could create some kind of asset. There is with any passive income, there's at least some initial effort to get something set up,
Right,
right? Nothing's going to
right,
be without effort at all, or at least some kind of capital or something that you put to it. So you have this skill, you create something, you post it on there, and then money starts coming in. You do that more and more money comes in, right? More passive
right,
income. Uh, so that's awesome. So it's like what kind of you're looking to do is get more out there, and as you realize, oh, this actually works. If I strategize even further, time my things right, market a little bit, or do whatever you said, like keywords, like oh, this could even become more passive income. And the more you
right,
automate this stuff, the more passive it becomes, right? But that's
right.
in fact that's
Yeah,
that's
because my
amazing.
goal is I would love to be able to replace my wife's entire income with just doing something as simple as like Etsy, like
Yeah.
get 1,000 products on a store, or have 5 different stores that sell, $1,000 a month, and then my
Mm-hmm.
wife doesn't have to work anymore.
Yeah.
That'd
Yeah.
be amazing. Um,
Yeah.
you know, and I mean that's not the only like. It's like I said, if you just go through that like huge affiliate marketing, uh, like uh, community on TikTok that has like taught me a ton. I haven't officially started that one. I'm still kind of in the education process of that one.
Mm-hmm.
But I need to learn the skills of using sales funnels and like email automation and all that stuff. So
So you're saying,
using
but if
those
I
skills
you're
to
going on
further
TikTok
that, and
to
that will just naturally make me a better businessman too. Learning
yeah,
these side hustles, and it will
but
help my
you're
current
learning this
business.
stuff. You're learning this stuff on TikTok is what you're saying. Like you're
Yeah,
seeing
and then I
videos, so they're like,
branch off.
hey, try this. Uh, okay, interesting. I really want to look into this because I want to
I
use
mean,
that
and
as
it's
a
literally
tool.
like 3/4 of my For You page on TikTok is all like side hustles and passive income, and some of it's farcy,
Interesting.
some of it's money grab, and some so you have to take some of it with a grain of salt. But like it's taught me so much and kind of motivated me to like kind of move in a keep my design and have that
Mm-hmm.
still maintained, but find ways where I don't have to spend 15, 20 hours a week designing stuff for people. I can spend
Yeah.
2 or 3 hours, maybe match what I'm making freelance wise, and
Yeah.
like have a little more balance.
Yeah. I think that's huge. That's the biggest difference. Obviously, the benefit of passive income is we don't have it like frees up our time. We don't have to actively be doing things. It's not like, hey, an hour of my time creates this much profit or whatever. There's not that 1-to-1 ratio, which is awesome. So not to mean you have to then throw away all the other things that work too. It's just let's just
Right.
add to it. So
Yeah,
that's
because
that's
like
a
you always hear it's like, how do you become a millionaire? You become a
mm-hmm.
millionaire not by working a 9 to 5 job. You become a millionaire by diversifying all of your like money creation uh, avenues. You
Mm-hmm.
try to. They always talk about income streams, and
Mm-hmm.
millionaires become millionaires because they have 7 to 10 income streams. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my goal too, is like keep my design, love it, love my day job, but let's find those avenue streams that are passive, and take our financial freedom to the next level, which I
Yeah.
definitely need.
Yeah, dude, me too. I'm with you. Like that's why I started this podcast is to learn all the things that I could be doing that I haven't been doing, and then saying, hey, it doesn't matter how old I am, and if I would have started then, how where I'd be now. It's like, what can I do today? As in, like, no better time than the present, right? Is
Yep.
the idea to get started on something, and that's cool. I'm gonna look into this whole side of TikTok where you can learn the stuff about side hustle, passive income.
Yeah, and hopefully you get on
Fantastic.
the algorithm where it doesn't give you a bunch of stupid crap.
Yeah, yeah, because I'm very new to it. Because I was like, hey, maybe I could use it to like promote my podcast, post some clips of my interviews or whatever. But it's a pretty cool platform to create too, though. I found more than other
Right.
things. The tools are very strong for creating content, which I like a
Right.
lot.
Yeah,
But
because I even like one side hustle I've started, but it's just hard to maintain is Amazon Amazon affiliate. It's where you essentially
Mm-hmm.
affiliate marketer for Amazon. So I got
Hmm.
on their program and I started doing videos, and how that works is they go on your video, you put a link in your link tree or your bio, your links
Mm-hmm.
bio, and then they click on it, they go to Amazon. If they purchase something after clicking on your link, they don't have to purchase what you linked them to, but if that cookie remains, anything they
Mm-hmm.
buy on Amazon, you get like a kickback for. But Amazon, so I that's kind of what I started. That's kind of my first side hustle that I kind of started. I actually got a couple videos that got like 50, 70, 80,000 views. And
Like
I
review
didn't make a
videos
ton.
or
Yeah, just review videos of stuff I bought
ah.
from Amazon just because I bought it, and so I had it already, and I just started reviewing stuff that I already bought. Um,
Mm,
I mean, I didn't make a ton of money, and then their program is like you have to have a social following. So I had a social following on TikTok, but everywhere else I didn't. So they kicked me
mm,
out of the program because I didn't have like 1,000 subscribers or 1,000 uh, Instagram followers. I may go back and revisit it, but that's
mm-hmm.
kind of what started me down kind of this avenue of these passive incomes. And but
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if something doesn't work out because like we learn from that experience and say, hey,
right,
this is what I liked about that. You know what? I learned some cool things, but it turns out I might be able to do something else that pays better than what Amazon's willing to give me. Or you learn these
yeah,
skills and you start to think differently. You process the world around you differently, and you recognize opportunities that you wouldn't have recognized before. So
exactly.
this has been a really awesome conversation. I'm gonna let you get back to your day, but I just want to thank you for just your perspective. It's just kind of it's so funny how we start to learn things and how things connect, and then all of a sudden you're bringing up things I just barely been thinking about, and it's just like really cool. So, um,
Yeah, it's
I
crazy.
really appreciate it. So, is there like a website, anything that anybody who would wanted to learn more about your design or what you do, or your
Yeah, yeah,
TikTok handle or whatever?
yeah. So my graphic design website is Mazziotti, Mazziotti design.com. I also have a web only address now. So like when I'm focusing on web only clients, that's jmazzdigital.com. And that name
This
was given to me.
this with two Z's, right? JMaz.
Yep.
Okay,
JAMAZZ digital.com. That nickname was given to me by the lovely people at Go React. And
nice.
I was known strictly by that there. So that
To
was,
the point that I had to ask you, how do you pronounce your last name when we got on this call? Because I've,
or people had to ask me what my first name was. It
yeah,
got to that point where
yeah.
new employees didn't even know what my first name was there. I was just JMaz all the time. So
Such JAMAZZ, right? Or
JMAZZ digital.com, and then Mazziotti.
all right, awesome. Thanks again for your time, and just for anyone who wants to, if they have questions for Jordan, you can email me at nobettertime.podcast@gmail.com. If you go to anchor.fm/nobettertime, you can even leave a voice message about your thoughts or questions. And if there's anything you have, I can forward it to Jordan. Thanks for listening and keep pushing and look for those opportunities around you because they are there. Just open your mind and notice and take risks and be willing to fail. All right. Have a good day.